neighbor being petty AF, reported both her and Meister Alejandro to the authorities for witchcraft when she could have just minded her own business. To Tatuana, you will flee whenever you are in danger. Tatuana did what Master had said. She drew the little boat, closed her eyes, and entering it, the little boat had started moving. Then she was able to escape from prison, then ultimately death. The next morning of the execution, the bailiffs find a dry tree in the prison. Hey onda mi gente, it's your morenita favorita, Dam del Cielo, back with a brand new episode of Makeup and Mythology Monday. During Indigenous Heritage Month. And if you're new here, hey, my name is Dom. Every Monday I tell a beloved folklore story from a country around the world while I do my makeup at the same damn time. It's always chaotic but also educational in the best way possible. If that is up your alley, make sure to like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe, as it helps me find more lovelies like you and learn more about the world. Because why not? Variety spice of life. So now that that's the way, let's jump right in. All products listed down below in the description. Then on IG and then on TikTok Shop. TikTok Shop, I have a lot of products on there as well. I'll always mark those on there as well. Make sure to follow me at Dam del Cielo. But now for it, let's begin. Originally wrote this for last month, for Latino Heritage Month, which is celebrated every year between September 15th and October 15th. Commemorate the 63.5 million Latinos that live in the United States, or Latine, that's the other gender neutral term, as well as their cultures and histories. The celebration begins in the middle of September to coincide with the Independence Days of several Latin American countries like Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. So does Mexico. Mexico's on the 16th. And then Chile has its Independence Day on September 18th, with Belize on September 21st. And also, this is going to be during Indigenous Heritage Month, but we'll see why that's important. And today we're covering a story from the wonderful Central American country of Guatemala. Guatemala. Now the name Guatemala comes from the Nahuatl word Cuajal de Malan, or place of many trees, of the Kichi Mayan word for many trees. This name was originally used by the Mexica to refer to Hicchal city of Ishimich, which was extended to refer to the whole country during the Spanish colonial period. Located right below Mexico, Guatemala is part of the Northern Triangle countries, along with El Salvador y Honduras. Guatemala's history is marked by the Mayan civilization, Spanish conquest, and various periods of military conjuntas and periods of independence, as well as their civil war. which was probably one of the most darkest and defining moments of their history, was their civil war that lasted from 1960 to 1996, which included what's known as the Silent Genocide, the Mayan Genocide. There had been long-standing issues with land distribution in Guatemala, as wealthy Guatemalans, mostly of European descent, and foreign companies controlled most of the land, while poor brown Guatemalans basically were working the land in poor conditions, which caused leftist rebel groups to rise up against the Guatemalan government. From 1980 to 1983, the army instituted what's called Operation Sophia, which sought to undermine anti-government guerrillas, or guerrillas, to undermine anti-government guerrillas by terrorizing and or killing citizens whom the army suspected were supporting the insurgents. And the majority of those killed were of Mayan descent. The army supplemented private death squads that were hired by wealthy landowners and that systematically razed more than 400 villages, scorching buildings and crops, slaughtering livestock, poisoning water supplies, and killing or abducting whoever they deemed fit. During the 1980s, a certain country intervened in Guatemala as a proxy for the United States, providing arms and training to the Guatemalan government. Military slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Maya. And you do gotta love that the US, of course, is involved, because they're not supposed to be sending them weapons because they are committing crimes against humanity, but we are through a certain country. And if you guessed the Zionist entity was sending the Guatemalan government weapons to exterminate people they considered a problem, you would be right. Yeah, they just like to fund G-side everywhere. The Guatemalan military officers actually referred to the methods that they used of eradicating the Maya as the Palestinization of Guatemala's Mayan people post-massacre, is what they would call it, the Palestinization of Mayan lands. Lovely, lovely, lovely. But on a lighter note, more about the Maya people, who still do exist. Archaeologists believe that the earliest settlers in Guatemala arrived from Asia about 14,000 years ago, so many millennia back. Evidence of human settlements dates back to around 9,000 BC, and the Maya civilization dominated Guatemala 250 to 900 AD, and the Maya temple at Takal was built over 1,300 years ago. 60% of the population claims to be Catholic in Guatemala, whereas their beliefs and traditions are strongly attached to the pre-Hispanic life perspective. Maize, corn, prevails as a sacred ingredient for many locals. Guatemala has a rich cultural heritage that's a blend of Mayan and Spanish influences. Like my accent is hella Spanish right now. The country's national symbol is the quetzal, which is a bird that appears on the flag and currency. Guatemala has a diverse range of climates. and landscapes, including volcanoes, mountains, beaches, tropical rainforests, and mountain cloud forests. So the story of La Tatuana is set during the Spanish colonial era of Guatemalan history, which would be from 1523 to 1821 Common Era approximately. Once there was an exceptionally beautiful girl named Manuelita who lived in the city of Alta Verapaz in La Antigua Guatemala. And she is believed to be biracial or mulata, black and white, and was the apprentice of a Mayan shaman named Maestro Almendro or Master Almond Tree. Never found a reason for that, but that's so funny. But Maestro Almendro was a shapeshifter, but in his human form, you would just see like a wise native Mayan man with a rosy beard. He was able to read the stars, and he knew how to cure plants and talk to the talking stone, which is obsidian. So during the full owl fisherman moon, Master Almendro decides to portion out his soul Maestro Almendro decides to portion out his soul to the four roads at the Tree of Abundance. The Tree of Abundance guards the Maya traditions and recounts the passing of the years. The tree divides his soul between four paths that one encounters before the underworld known as Shibala. Each path has a color and a name. The black one is the sorcerer knight. The green is the spring torment. The red is guacamayo, or tropical ecstasy. And then the white is promise of new lands. The soul paths go in opposite directions to find a place or thing to inhabit. A white dove offers itself to the white soul path, but it wasn't heard. Animistic religions believe that all things, animals, people, have spirits and have souls and can inhabit one another. The dove wanted the shaman's ability to cure. Then a red heart offered itself to the red soul path, but it wasn't heard, as the heart wanted to distract itself and to forget the shaman's soul. Hearts never return forgotten things. A green harbor offered itself to the green soul, but it was not heard. The arbor wanted to use the shaman's soul to recover his debt to the leaves and the shade. No one even tried to talk to the black soul path. No one or no thing. With a quickness, the black soul path gave the shaman's soul to a jewelry merchant in the city. Once Maestro Almendro finds out about this, he takes back into human form and travels to go get his soul back. The master offers the merchant 100 pounds of pearls, but the merchant refuses. He offers the merchant a lake of emeralds. Ugh. He got money. A lake of emeralds, amulets, feathers for pins, but the merchant still refuses them and only wants to use the soul piece to buy the most beautiful slave woman that he can find. Now we have a time jump. A year of 400 days passes, and the merchant returns with a beautiful slave woman named Manuelita. The merchant is obsessed with her and parades her around like a jewel. And after a long time, Maestro Almendro stops at the door of the priceless jewels merchant in a haze to ask the slave, how many moons did they spend walking the roads? Manuelita was stopped in her tracks and was silent with the mysterious, and Mr. Master was silent with the insistence of the mysterious stone. It filled the moon of Fisher Owl. They silently wash their faces with their eyes at the same time, like two lovers who have been absent and suddenly met, but the moment quickly ended. A few weeks later, the merchant had mysteriously fallen ill. And passed away. Now, Manuelita was sad, but was decided to embrace her newfound freedom. She came across Master Almond Tree in the nearby town market and decided to allow the master to nurture her somewhat supernatural abilities. He discovered that she was the missing part of his soul. It was said that Manuela was able to have psychic visions and other unusual things that the townspeople were afraid of, because why not? Everyone's always a witch to these people. Manuela was known for being sensual and taking part in the pleasures of life against social convention. So, Maestro Almendro took her under his wing and taught her mystic rituals and such. Their friendship / apprenticeship, maybe romance, was short-lived, as Manuelita, being the feisty little biracial she is, got into an argument one of the neighbors. When she got into an argument with said neighbor, so like that neighbor being petty AF, reported both her and Meister Alejandro to the authorities for witchcraft when she could have just minded her own business. So the Inquisition authorities came to arrest them a few days later because they were like, witches? Oh no. Oh no. No, 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 no. We don't want none of that foolishness. So they arrested them in the name of the king and of God, of course. They had claimed that like he was a warlock and had like possessed her with a demon. It's giving very much Salem witch trial. So 7 months later, they were put on trial, found guilty, and sentenced to be burned to death in Plaza Mayor in the coming days. So on the eve of the execution, somehow Master Alejandro approached Manuelita the slave while she was still locked up, and with a nail tattooed on, from what I'm remembering too, that he approached her, he came to find her while she had been locked away in confinement to be executed. There was never any indication of whether he was already executed and maybe his soul came back. So basically, like, I'm saying that to say, like, we don't really know where he was supposed to be at. If he had, I think most versions I read is that like he somehow escaped, and that's how he's able to find Manuelita, who was in a jail cell waiting to be executed. And so Maestro Alejandro approached Manuelita while she was in her jail cell behind bars. With his nail, he tattooed a little boat on her arm by saying, by virtue of this tattoo, Tatuana, you will flee whenever you are in danger. Just as you will flee today. My will is for you to be free like my thoughts. Draw this little boat on the wall, on the ground, in the air, wherever you want. Close your eyes, enter it, and leave. Without wasting it, La Tatuana did what Master had said. She drew the little boat, closed her eyes, and entering it, the little boat had started moving. Then she was able to escape from prison, and ultimately death. The next morning of the execution, the bailiffs find a dry tree in the prison that had 2 or 3 small almond blossoms between the branches. Still pink. In another version, La Tatuana had lost her mind in prison. When when the day of her execution came, she had made a final request for a piece of coal, candles, and white roses. With these things, she made an altar and drew a ship on the wall with the piece of coal. The drawing was identical to the ship, that she had tattooed on her arm. And very quietly, she spoke a few words, then boarded her black, chalky depiction of a ship and disappeared. She was never heard from again or seen again.
The end.
But to wrap this all up, the most well-known version of the story is from the book Leyendas de Guatemala by Miguel Ángel Asturias, but there are versions as well. Like in all folklore, I did my best to make a really thorough amalgamation of all the versions I did find through my research, which I hope made the story enjoyable for you guys. My favorite part was the constant rebellion against authority. I think that's probably one of the most overarching themes of La Tatuana story. Whether it be the Inquisition or the evil bourgeoisie merchant who would not give Master's soul back. I love and happy ending. The absolute best part
are all the references to the Mayan traditions. As a result, the Mayans believed that the moon was a symbol of darkness and night, which of course I believe that too. I mean, it's obvious, but I feel very spiritually in touch and to the moon. However, they also believe that the moon had the power to bring light into the world surrounded by darkness. Oh my gosh, that's so poetic. Which explains why the soul ceremony was done during a full moon. In shamanism, a soul is split in when a part of a person is soul becomes separated from them, and can occur during times of trauma or crisis. Shamans believe that illness can be caused by a soul leaving the body, and that their role is to retrieve it and to restore the balance between the physical and spiritual worlds, both physically and within this person. The story stays true to indigenous values of the great importance of nature and the interconnectedness of all living things and spirits. It outwardly rejects the materialism of imperialism and commercialism forced on us by colonization. Despite a concerted effort to force like a disconnection by the colonizing forces by the end of the 17th century and the beginning of the 18th centuries, the indigenous peoples' relationship with nature had not changed for the most part. Syncretism basically is a mixture of beliefs, came to be a useful source for many natives as the only way to keep their traditions hidden from the Spanish and other white men. Stories like La Tatuana prove the survival of indigenous peoples. To wrap this up, I would encourage you to embrace who you are. Tattoo a boat on your heart or finger to guide you out of the storm. That's all I have for you today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Have a good night, evening, week, life. Bless you. Besos.